Collections and Recoveries is certainly viewed as a competitive landscape for a number of reasons. First and foremost, Collections and Recoveries is all about yields, it's about time, and it's about costs. And the more optimum that relationship is, the higher degree of risk a credit provider can assume in the context of what is being originated. Secondly, given the underlying cost of capital, capital is a productive resource. The longer you have non-performing or non-productive capital tied up in your collections and recovery process, there's a cost to the business. And last but not least, the improved collections and recoveries yields, cost and time relationship also allows the credit provider to redeploy capital into other components of the business where the returns would be appropriate. Historically, one of the biggest remediation opportunities in collections and recoveries is the need to invest timelessly in terms of the life cycle of an account before the delinquency curve starts to shift. Historically, I think a lot of credit providers have been inclined to invest in their collections capability after the event, and as we all know, that potentially is little, too late. Secondly, the whole principle of understanding from a business planning perspective, what does the landscape look like currently? How is it likely to shift going forward? What assumptions have we made for the future? And it's understanding that relationship and mix, which will enable you to ensure that you've got a good, punchy, short, medium, and long-term business plan to address any form of challenges going forward. Another area of opportunity that we've noticed on our travels is the whole principle of when to deploy risk segmentation into the collections and recoveries life cycle. Traditionally, a lot of credit providers are inclined to score or segment in the so-called early stage. And that's good because that gives you an indication of the client's propensity to roll. But I think historically as well, there have been opportunities to apply scoring and segmentation into the later stages of the delinquent life cycle, and in particular taking a view on the client's propensity to pay. Another area of opportunity is the whole principle around strategy design. Again, we often see good segmentation, good scorecards, but bad treatments, alternatively, treatments that are not necessarily executed as well as they could be. So the principle of good synergy between the people creating the strategy and the operational people who are tasked to deploy and execute that strategy is critically important. When we also talk about treatments in the context of risk segmentation, treatments are about what we call tilting. It's the tone, the timing, and the type of collection action you take at any given point in early and or late stage. Another theme that requires some exploration is the whole principle of business intelligence. Now, as the name or as the phrase suggests, it suggests insights rather than necessarily management information. I think from an opportunity perspective, a lot of credit providers don't necessarily have a reporting framework that really articulates what's happening at a portfolio level, at a financial level, and at a tactical level. The principle of good business intelligence is to sort of create complete context from cradle to grave, telling the full story, ensuring that all your MI and your BI is interconnected, and there's not selective renditions of what may or may not be happening. It's critically important in terms of BI is understanding cause and effect, or to put it slightly differently, activities and outcomes. The more detailed your portfolio, financial and tactical reporting is, the better you will understand risk build-up in your book, and the more proactive you can be around addressing potential remediation issues. Right, the first thing is probably to consider some appropriate pre-delinquency strategies. Again, it's an opportunity lost if you don't understand build-up of risk in your performing portfolio and the risk construct and the risk profile of those customers. It becomes quite challenging to address it from a treatment perspective if and when they go delinquent. The second component is ensuring good predictive capability across your entire delinquent life cycle. So by that I basically mean good scoring capability in both early and late stage, as well as having a good understanding of what your propensities to pay are in your so-called pre or post write-off environments. The third component is understanding your underlying or the intrinsic value of your pre and post write-off environments. So therefore it's understanding the context between what your yields are, what your costs are, and over what period of time are these likely to materialize. So again, a really superior, optimal collections recovery shop have a good understanding at any given point as to the underlying intrinsic value of their portfolio and what sort of cash flows they're likely to derive over the short to medium term. The third, and it sounds relatively simplistic, is just doing the basics brilliantly. And when I talk about doing the basics brilliantly, I'm coming from a strategy, from a people, from a process, and from a technology perspective. So strategy, ensuring we've got good strategy in place, good segmentation, good risk discrimination, and operationally that is being well executed and in accordance with the strategy. From a people perspective, it's all the basics: good business planning, good role profiling, superior performance management, ensuring good succession, good capability for the current scenario. From a process perspective, again, it's ensuring all the risks in your processes are understood, that there's no build-up of risk and or that there's no inefficiencies in your process. Things like optimizing your dialer, understanding cause and effect, understanding campaign management, how to deploy your workforce to support those campaigns, critically important. And last but not least, ensuring you've got robust technology, in particular a good link between your host system, between your dialer, and obviously between your collection system. That your system can give you the sort of insights and perspectives to support the earlier theme, which was around your business intelligence.